Okay, good afternoon, guys. Let's go. Today's assignment, we're going to cover, or with today's video, we're going to cover the assignment number 5 of the Java Comp 305 course. Now, for this specific practical, we are going to create a form, and that will have 2 inputs, and we will insert in a database, in a table of the database created in our local host. And also we're going to perform a select statement. So everything we are inserting in the file or in this database, we're going to or it's going to be displayed in our form. Okay, so let's start with this. The first step that we have to do is setting up our environment, right? So let's go to check. First of all, let me do some settings. You don't have to do this. So this is only for my own settings. Now, because I want to use exactly the same environment that you might be using, so I'm going to stop the XAMPP and use the other version. Okay, let's give me a check. Don't worry, you don't have to do this. It's just my computer, how I set up my environment. Okay, now the first thing we have to do is start our XAMPP control panel, right? And I'm going to start the Apache as well as the MySQL, because I want to connect to this database. Okay, so let's wait until, yeah, now it's running. Now you have to open your Google Chrome and type localhost. And localhost only. And well, in my configuration, I configured the root access, so it will ask me for the password and user. Let's wait until this works. Okay, so we have our environment working very well. Now the next step is creating a new project in NetBeans. So let's go to open the NetBeans. I'm going to wait until the application runs. Okay, it's starting. I guess it's taking a little bit long because I am performing other tasks in my computer. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually closing all these guys, so I'm not making any mistake. Okay, it seems like I don't have the option of closing. Yeah, closing, and close this guy and close this guy as well. Now I have a fresh new start, right? So the first thing we have to do is, as I told you, create a new project. I'm going to call assignment number 5. And oh, sorry, I have to select what project it is first. So it's going to be Java application, and in here I'm going to put the name to assignment number 5. So I'm going to select a proper folder so I can find it, and it will be inside the folder week 10, no, week 11 actually. Yep, open, and I have to make sure, yeah, it's gonna create the assignment. Now we're talking assignment number 5. Okay, now I'm not going to create the main class. Remember, I'm not interested in creating the main class because I'm going to create the main class using the form. So I think this is pretty much everything that we need to do. So I'm going to click finish, and the project will be created for me. Now As you may see, I have an empty project. Now I'm going to create a new JFrame form, which I will call let's say form input form. Okay, and since this is a class, remember we have to name it input form, and the other thing is the default package. I'm going to use the same name for this package. And what else? Yep, it seems like everything is okay. Alright, now click finish. We'll create the form for me. So basically we're going to create a database or a table that has only 2 variables. Okay, so let's go back to your environment, your PHP MyAdmin, and in here I'm going to create a new database. I want you guys to get familiar with everything in creating database and everything. So you should know how to do this already, but I wanted to perform the whole exercise for you guys to understand, since it's step 1. Okay, now I'm going to create a database called assignment. Remember, in MySQL, everything is lowercase, right? So I will call it assignment. I'm having a problem with this word. Assignment. Oh, actually I got it right. Assignment number 5. And yeah, create. Now inside of assignment number 5, I'm going to create a new table called games. Okay, and I'm going to use only 2 columns for this. So I'm going to click go, and I have the 2 tables, the 2 columns, and the first column will call ID game, or game ID, actually game ID, like this. Yeah, let's call it game ID. And no, I'm going to put it ID game. Sorry, it's just thinking in my head a little bit forward, so I have to make sure every single step I do is correct, right? And the ID game, so I will have the name of my game, and let's do it afterwards. I'm going to, this is going to be integer and auto incremented, and it will be primary as well. So in this case will be varchar and the length of 255. So basically that's all I have to do. I have to save. Perfect. Now I'm going to add another column. I would like to add the category, which will be a varchar of 255. Okay. Remember, the purpose of this exercise is not understanding what the MySQL is, but is actually understanding how to connect to the MySQL database, correct? So we have 3 columns in our database. That's pretty much what we have to do in the database. We already had the database working. So now go back to the our form, and I'm going to create, since we are asking the user to a specific items, which are the game and the category, I'm going to display only 2 inputs, right? For inserting the information inside the database. So the first thing we have to do, as always, is just create a panel. Now inside this panel, I'm going to use, let's see, I think to try to think how the best way is, and because if I created a flow, it won't look very nice. But if I use it, let me think. Yeah, let's see later what the best arrangement is. So I'm going to put one field over here that will be my name, name text box, txt. I will call it txt. And in properties, well, I will take care of the text later. First, let's go to finish with all the controls that we need. Now in here, that will be the category txt. Okay, awesome. Now the next step will be having a label. Of course, will be a label. Label will be name, and the other label will be category. All right. Now I think the best way to do is like probably having a box, probably a row. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to call this type inside the JPanel1. I'm going to set the layout of the grid layout. Actually, it's not looking that bad. And I'm going to move this guy over here, JLabel. So that will be the name and then the category. All right. Now, since this is a grid layout, I'm going to select the grid layout and I will put 2 rows. Okay. Awesome. That's exactly what I want. And the other thing I'm going to do is in the grid layout, I'm going to give a little bit of gap, or it's no vertical gap actually. Okay. I'm going to put this 5. So I separate a little bit. Okay. Now the next step is putting another panel. That's where my bottom will be. So okay, bottom here. Right now I'm just putting this guy next to it. I'm going to change that layout anyway, but I want to make sure at least this layout is working perfectly. So in this one I'm going to use the flow layout, so it will center my bottom accordingly. Perfect. That's exactly what I want. Now in the code I will call it in this case will be submit, and in properties I will call it, now in code has to be in camel case, right? Submit button. And in properties I will call it, what is the text? I'm missing the text. Let's see, what is the text? J button, no. Oh, I made a mistake. Actually I call the panel, I call the panel submit button. Now I'm going to call it like a panel 2. I don't care about the name of the panel anyway. So I'm going to select the button again and I'm going to change it to submit button. And properties, that is why I was missing the properties. I'm going to change it to submit. Awesome. Now in this free space, that's where my text area will be. So I'm going to put another panel. Okay. Doesn't matter about the arrangement with these panels right now because I'm going to change that. And let's go to move it a little bit like this. Again, don't worry about this because I'm going to change that. I just wanted to see how it looks. So no, this is not a text field, sorry. This is gonna be a text area. Okay. All right, but in this panel, select the J2 panel. Okay, I'm going to rename this guy to panel 3, so you guys don't be confused because there is a J panel 2 and panel 3. And okay, now this JText area, I will call it, no, in JPanel I will use the box layout, so it will cover the whole thing, right? Now if you select the JFrame, I want the JFrame to have, let's see how it looks. Probably the flow layout. Nope. Let's see another, probably the grid. Yeah, the grid will work, but instead of 2, I'm going to make 3 arrows and columns. I will have 1 column. So what is happening is, as you may see, what is happening is, like, since I'm trying to divide these guys into 3, so this is too big, and the submit button is way too big. So let's go to see another layout, probably box layout, horizontal way. Well, it's pretty much the same as in the box, right? Now, so what I will do, let me think. Probably if I use another cell layout, let's check. This is the border layout, but border layout doesn't look good. I know that. Flow layout, no. Let me use the grid layout because it's the easiest. So that will have, let's say, 5 rows. That's good. Now, I don't want this space to be freed. So the thing is, if I'm using only 5, I have to put it that way. Now what I'm thinking is, because if I put it like this, okay, let's see one thing. Only 3 rows. Okay. Well, I think let's see how it looks. Probably it's looking good, and I'm struggling something that check. Let's wait until. Okay, well, that's not exactly what I have in mind, but I think it will work. Okay. Now, right. Well, I think it's not the best. It's not the best setup, but I think it will work. Now, since it's working, but I don't like how it looks. I still don't like how it looks. So I'm going to change a little bit this. I'm going to put this guy a little bit bigger. And since I wanted to change like this, I'm going to keep this layout. And since this guy is a grid layout, right? The panel 3 is the one that is a flow layout, but this is a grid layout, right? So I'm going to change, because it's easier this way, I'm going to put not only 3 rows, but probably 4. 4 will do, yeah, and 2 columns. Let's see how it looks. Now I will start to put panels inside here. So yeah, in order to achieve that effect, right? Now since this panel, I'm going to change the layout to border layout. Okay, it's only an empty panel. So I'm going to put it, let's say, here. Yeah, it could be, but no, probably here. Right? And I will add another one inside my panel 1. No, not here. Sorry. Actually, before the label. Exactly. That's exactly what I want. And yeah, that's pretty much. You know what? Now I'm going to change the property of the rows to, yes, 3 rows. And why I am having 3 rows? I am having an empty space here. Okay. Okay, well, I think category, yeah, category is here. How many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, it looks solid body 1. I don't know why it's showing me. Oh, I see. Because, but no, but it shouldn't. It shouldn't. Let me check one thing. In grid layout, I'm going to give just zero gap, and still I'm having this weird space over here. But you know what? It looks better. So I'm going to leave it as it is. Now in this guy, I'm going to put it as a grid layout as well, but I don't want the button to look like that. So in the grid layout, I'm going to put probably 3 rows as well. And let's say 5 columns probably. So I'm going to start putting panels to, oops, so panel inside here, yes, and another panel, and this panel will be, there will be a border layout, and copy this guy and paste it here, and paste it here. I am having how many rows? I said, I mean columns, 5, and paste it here, paste it here, paste it here. Now it's looking better, right? So we have 3 rows, probably 4 will do. So I'm going to paste it and paste it and paste it and paste it and paste it, paste it. Yeah, 5 will do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, still having panels to add. There you go. Now this button, I don't want it to be right there. Probably here. Oh, but the problem is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, that's fine. So it's gonna be previous. There you go. Now we are talking, right? Now I probably should have 3, 4 rows here in this panel. Probably 5. Right. And I'm going to center this guy over here, so I'm going to add a couple of panels here in the panel 1. Let's check. There's a few panels more. Okay, so I believe that will be enough. Let me see. Yeah, another panel here after this panel. Awesome. That looks better. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much what I want. Looks a little bit wide, so probably like this. Oops. So let's see how it looks. Oh, it should be like this, right? More like this. The problem is this guy. Yeah, that's R3. I think that's enough. That's exactly what I want, actually. It's good enough. Yeah. So I'm going to set this size of the JFrame. The JFrame, you have to go to the maximum size. So I'm going to put this guy to 335. 300. Okay. No, it's actually 300. If I just can type the bloody number. There you go. Now let's see how it looks. Not quite. So yeah, I know it's kind of hard sometimes to achieve exactly what you want. So preferred size is 400. You know what? Let me check if I can. 400, 300. Let's save it like this. Oh, and let's see, 500. It's not getting any wider, right? So let me check. Let's put 1,000 to see what's happening. Oh, but this is a maximum, that's why. So I will call this well as well 1,000 just to make sure it's working, right? So let's see. Okay, I will leave it like that. It's okay. Okay, I can add a couple of, oh well, actually it should. It's only 2 columns, right? And in this panel it should be 3 rows, 3 columns, I'm sorry. Now I can add more panels here. And another panel, and another panel, and another panel. Let me check if I have all the spaces. No, it's 1 panel missing. Okay, cool. Now let me check if I can. No, I'm not gonna do like that because it's gonna mess my thing. So I'm going to move the panel a little bit up. Yes, and that's pretty much exactly. So now I'm going to move 1 panel down, which is this panel over here, which is the panel number 3, and I will move it here exactly. Now I need to add 2 panels, 3 panels inside here, between 1, 2, and 3. Exactly. Now we are getting somewhere. Perfect. Okay, awesome. Now let's see how it looks. Perfect. Okay, not too shabby, but it's gonna be functional. That's all I want. All right, we're done with our. The only thing that is missing is changing this text field to nothing, as well as this guy over here. Okay, awesome. All right, so now let's go to create our classes and everything that we need to create in for our form to work, right? So the first thing we are going to do is create the new class, new Java class that I will call, how did we call the games? Okay, games table. So since, remember I told you, you have to create as many classes as tables you have. So in this case, I'm going to call the class name games, all right? So in this specific class, all I have to define is my properties. And the properties go back to your database are ID game, name, and category. So the private ID game, which is an integer ID game, the private, the other one is name, which is a string name, and the private string category. Okay, Now remember the your IDE. If you hit Alt Insert, you will have this menu, and you can create the getters and setters at once. That's all that we need for our class. Okay. The other thing. Oh, where did my private category went? All right. So the other thing that we can do is, if you want, you can create another constructor. That's what I will do right now. I'm going to create my own constructor because I would like to create the games without calling every single method, right? So I'm going to ask for the integer ID game, string name, and the string category. And in here I will use this ID game is equal to ID game. This name, name will be equal to name, and finally this category will be equal to category. Awesome. Now the other class that we're going to create is a Java class called DB connection, as the previous example that we did, guys, right? Now in this DB connection we're going to set up several things. Now the first thing is the final static string password, which is equal to nothing. If you say you are using the SAMP project like you were in the classroom, all the password will be blank. Okay, so you don't have to be worried about that. If you're using your own laptop, you have to know those settings for working to make it work properly. Okay, now the other variable will be the UID. UID will be the user ID. Okay, so in this case will be root. Remember, this is the user ID for the MySQL. Okay, for the MySQL database. It doesn't have to do with the specific Java or anything. It's just for connecting to the MySQL database. Now the next thing we have to create is the final string, the database URL equal to. Now in order to know how to create this database, there are several ways to do it. And one way is actually the example that I'm giving to you, and the other way is going to Google and type something like a string connection string MySQL JDBC, and probably that should be somewhere. Well, there is one way, which is in here. Okay, but I don't want to use that example. There is something else. Connection string. Well, let's check. Let's see over here in the documentation. Probably, yeah, actually that's the documentation that I'm looking for. You see, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Now in here, all I'm going to is actually copy up to here. Okay, because we're not going to use any profile, and we don't have any profile stored in our database anyway. So I'm going to copy up to here where it says Aquila, and going back to our database and paste this. And now in here we have to change a few things. The first thing we have to make sure is localhost 3306. Remember, in real life this doesn't exist. You have to put exactly what the database server is. But since we are using like a local environment, the local host will be the server that we are going to reach in this case. Okay, now let's see one thing. 3306 is actually the port number that this specific connection has as a default, and Sakila, it won't be Sakila. Sakila will be, in this case, if you go back to the PHP MyAdmin, I call it assignment number 5. Okay, so if you click here in assignment, it should be a way to operation, probably. No, not in here. Probably in routines. No, tracking designer. Let me check. There should be a way to, oh yeah, just select this guy over here, select the text, since it's a text is fine. So it's just to make sure and avoid errors in namings. I hate those errors because it's never, you never get the proper thing the first time, right? Now the other instance variable we're going to create is the connection equal to con, and the result set. Remember, the result set is always useful. It doesn't matter if you are not using it or not, but it's always recommended to have the result set. So it seems like I have an error over here, and it's because I don't have the proper library for this. So hit Alt Enter, and you will see this menu deploying, right? So just add import Java SQL connection, and in result do the same. Java, no, that's not the correct, not either this one. And let me check. Actually, I'm making a mistake. It's result set, and just Alt Enter. Now we are talking. That's the one. If you keep having an error like I'm having over here, let me check one thing. I will try to do this. Let me check what the error is. Cannot find symbol variable con location class dbcon. Let me check one thing. If I do this, oh, that's a new mistake. So actually I'm calling the class, but I'm not putting the name, the identifier. Oh my gosh, what I did. Sorry. That's a new mistake. I don't know what happened with me. Sorry about that. Probably I am tired. Anyway, so the final thing at the end, the final thing that we have to create are the prepare statement. So I'm going to call the class prepare statement. Okay. Call, in this case, we are going to insert new game statement, and we are going to get all games statement. Okay. Now, in order to avoid this error, just create a class. Now, probably I have a typo over here. Prepare a statement. Yes, I'm missing the E statement. Okay. So now I have the Java SQL prepare statement. Excellent. All right, that's pretty much what we have. Now I'm going to use the default constructor. And remember, since we are working with SQL over here, we have to throw an exception. All right. Always like that, because in Java, in order to work with MySQL or any SQL related database, you have to always have the exception protection. So it's a way the Java avoid having exception during loading and trying to connect to the database and that kind of things. So it's a very good practice. Not only a good practice, actually it won't allow you to continue if you don't have these exceptions. So The first thing we're going to do is setting our connection equal to the driver manager, okay, dot get connection. All right. So in here, I'm going to use the database URL. Excuse me. The UID and the password. Well, there is an error in password. Actually, this password should be in capital letters. Okay. Now I'm having a full of error here. Let me check if it's the semicolon. Yeah, the driver manager is actually asking for the proper library to be called. And okay, so now we have to define our statements, right? We only have two statements in this case. So the first statement is the insert new game statement, which will equal to con, which is the connection that we set up earlier, and it has the prepare statement method, and the prepare statement method will ask for a specific string, which will be our command or query to the MySQL server. So in this case, I'm going to insert into what the name of the table is, games. So insert into games. What are the columns? The columns are, let me click over here and probably in a structure. I have name and category. Why not ID game? Because I am using auto increment. So auto increment will be, that means will be filled automatically as soon as I try to insert a new value in this database. Okay. Excuse me. Excuse me. So the first field that we're going to fill is the name. Now that will be name. Yeah, it has to be with singular brackets. Actually, I don't have to use that. Yeah, no, that's fine. It will be name, and what is the other name? Category. Category. So as you may see, I pass in the column 80. I don't like to do that ever, so I'm going to put it in another line. Now, and the values will be, since we have two values only, we need to put two question marks. Remember, the question marks are going to be used for the prepare statement as variables that we're going to insert in this specific query. Okay. So for now, we're going to leave like that. We're going to come back later in order to get all the game statements. Okay. So let's see. Now, the other thing that we have to do is creating our method in order to insert a new value. So since I'm not going to return anything, I have to use the property void, and I'm going to insert game. Okay. And I will ask for a game class object. Okay. Now it's not games. Oh, it's games. Okay. Be careful about the typo. Okay. That is why it was giving me an error, right? Games. The game doesn't exist, but games exist, which is the class that we created earlier, right? Now in this method, I'm going to call the insert a new game statement. Okay, and I'm going to set an array or an integer. Let me check. The name and category are an array. So no, not array, a string. I'm sorry. Set a string. Yep. Now, in this case will be the number 1, I believe, yes. And the value that I'm going to get here is the game dot, since it's the game, so it will be the name, right? Get name. So I'm getting an error. Why? Check. Unreported exception. Oh, yeah, the same thing, right? Remember, you have to throw. You see, it won't allow you to continue if you don't actually throws. I'm throwing it in the wrong place. Throws exception. Okay, it will give you an error automatically as soon as it identifies that you're trying to use something that is related to SQL. It will throw you an error because it doesn't have the throws exception report, right? All right, now do we have to put another value? Yes, it seems like there are 2. Now I'm going to use the insert new game statement dot set string, yep, and that will be the second variable, and in this opportunity will be my game dot get category, right? Awesome. Now the last thing I'm going to do is, well, just for fun, I'm going to, just to make sure I'm using the correct statement, I'm going to print the line insert new game statement dot to a string, because in that way I'm gonna display here in the console area what exactly I am trying to do with my SQL database. So in that way I'm gonna be very, very sure what I'm doing, right? It's always recommendable to do this, always, when you are trying to develop. When you're developing something, doesn't matter what, trying to get the feedback as much as possible. And then when you are about to finish your application, you can erase all those guys away. Okay? Now, the last thing we have to do is to execute insert new game statement dot execute. Okay? And remember what I told you in class, you always should have a disconnect method in order to disconnect with all the implementation or anything that is related to the SQL. You cannot have any connection open because it will throw weird errors. Okay, so, and actually you are having a live connection to the database, which is basically, if you're using internet, real internet, it will get the connection very, very slow. So you want to get the as efficient as you can, right? So let's go to create that specific method that I will call disconnect. No, disconnect has to be in. Okay, now this disconnect, I'm going to close this statement. And I will close the connection as well. Okay. Dot close. Again, it's giving me an error because I'm not throwing exception. Okay. Now it seems like it's working now. Okay, cool. That's pretty much what we need to do now. All right. Let me check if I'm failing something. Okay, now let's go to make it work. Go back to your input form, and I'm going to use the double click action, double click on the submit button, so it will create a method for me, right? The submit button action perform. Okay, right in here, what are we going to do? What we're going to do is create a new connection, DB connection, and we are going to insert that information to the database. So let's see. The first thing we have to do is dbcon. Let's call it, I don't know, SQL con equal to new dbcon. Excuse me. Now, I think I have in my throat a little bit dry. Okay. Now, you have to use the semicolon. I'm having an error here. Let's see what happened. Unreported exception again. So since we have an unreported exception over here, we have to use the try and catch exception. Okay. Now in here, that's where we are going to put our logic. Okay. Yeah, that's how it is. It's always like that. Otherwise, it won't allow you to continue because you have to always get the exception failure handled. So I'm going to use, which is very useful sometimes when you have a very piece of code and you want to know exactly what is going on. It is useful. Okay, anyway, so in the SQL connection, let's go back to the class. We have the insert game, right? So that's what I'm going to do. But in order to do it, in order to do it, I have to create a new game, because remember, this specific method is accepting only games object. Okay, so if you go back to the input form, I'm going to create a new game. A new game and a new game object, right? So it will be game equal to new games, and in here I have to give all the parameters, which are an ID game, a string name, and a string category. And actually this is wrong because I don't need the ID game integer, so I have to go back to games. I can erase this very safely, because remember, the ID game will be generated for us automatically, so I don't need to call this game ID equal to ID game. I don't need that. So the only thing that I have to set up for this object will be the name and the category. Okay, so going back to here, I'm going to put the value. So let's go to create new variables. The first variable or local variable will be the name equal to where am I storing this this variable, this value. If you go back to the input form design, I want to get the value from here. So according to the code, it is name text txt. So go back to the source. So will be name txt dot get text. Okay. Now in the another string will be category equal to category txt dot get no suggestion, because I have a typo here, and dot get text. Awesome. Now the new game will be the name comma category. Now I can tell the SQL con to perform insert game. Which game I'm going to use? Of course, game. Alright? That's pretty much for our logic. That's all. Alright? Now let's see what happens if I connect to this guy. So let's put the heroes of the storm, and the category is MOBA. Submit. Not suitable driver. Oh, we are forgetting something very important here, which is our driver. So the first step that we have to do is locate our folder In this case will be the assignment number 5. And in here, as I told you, before the source folder, I'm going to place here my library. So let's go to recall it. MySQL connector Java connector MySQL developer son, and in here you can download that guy. Well, actually you should have something like this, I guess. Well, to me it's actually getting this, I don't know why it shouldn't. Well, anyway, so it should be this zip file. That's the one that you're going to use, right? So I'm going to download this. Oh no, that is correct. So right here, instead of login, you can click no thanks, just start my downloaded. And let's go to find the folder where I'm storing everything. In my case will be assignment number 5. Remember I told you before the source. Now save it there. And here I can extract here. Right, then I can erase the zip file. I don't need it anymore. So I can see the jar file and the bin jar file are exactly there where I want them. Now, in order to make this work, let's check. Right now we are not working with any library. If I click over here in this folder libraries and then right click, I can add a library. But since it's not listed over here, what we have to do is right click and add jar folder. Now go to the location where you store this specific file. In my case will be Academy 305 week 11. Week 11. Assignment number 5, MySQL connector. Thank you, finally. Now we are using our library here. So let's see if it works now. So again, I will try with Heroes of the Storm and MOBA. Okay. Submit. Table assignment 5, number 5 doesn't exist. Let's go back to our project here in the MySQL. Let's see. Well, actually, he's right. It's right. It's games. So I have another error in my MySQL error. Let me check. Probably in my insert into game. So let's go back to game dbcon. So here in games. Assignment number 5. It's exactly here. Okay. Save it and try again. Heroes of the Storm. MOBA. Well, it seems like it worked. Now, it is recommendable to have like a comment saying, okay, the communication or the file has been stored. But in this opportunity, I'm not going to do that. Is just to make sure. So if I select everything, I can see now Hero of the Storm is there. So now we're going to work with the retrieving. Okay, let me close all of these guys. And now to retrieve, what I'm going to do is go back to dbcon and I'm going to create another method. So that will be the public void get all games. Okay, but in this case we won't be void. In this case I want to return an array of games. Okay, so I'm going to create my games equal to new games, but in this case since I am having an array and I don't know how many games I'm going to store, so I'm going to use an array list. Okay, so in the array list, let me think about it a little bit. In the array list will be called or will be where all the temporary information will be stored, right? So I will put an array list type of games, okay, called results, equal to new array list type of games. Okay, now let me check what is wrong here. Probably I have to import it. Yeah, so in here it's giving me a warning, a redundant type. So all I have to do is erase this and then you're set. Let me check what the warning is. So all I have to do is actually put it like this, and then because it will be redundant, of course it's games because it's initialized here. So that is throwing you an error. Okay, now I'm going to return this guy. Return let me check the results to array, and I have to give the array that I want to use. But before defining this, let's go to comment this for now, and I'm going to call the games an array of game called games. Now in here I'm going to use the result set. Okay, that is why it's always recommendable to initialize it. So I'm going to use the result set, okay, equal to get all user statement, not all user, sorry, all games, right? And in here I'm going to execute the query, because right now I don't need to put, oh, but the thing is I haven't defined the get all game statement, right? So before doing this I have to initialize it, define it actually. All games statement equal to con prepare statement, prepared statement and will be select everything from games. Okay, now prepare statement, there is a typo probably. It's prepare statement. Okay, so I'm going to save. Now in here I'm going to execute the query. Okay, so the result set, remember I told you the result set will be in charge of communicating between Java and the MySQL properly. So I'm going to use an if statement asking if the result set brought a value. So if the result set is different from null, then result set. And if the result set brought something, so I'm going to use now the while statement telling the result set dot next it has something in it. You can use another approach, but I think this is the fastest way to do it. Now let's check what is happening over here. Probably it's exception. Yes, I always forget that. Thank God we have the IDE, right? And now it's done. I'm not having any more errors. So while this is happening, I'm going to create a new game equal to new games. Okay. So the problem here is I don't actually have a specific way to create the new games without the constructor, right? Because I set up a constructor. So what we have to do is going back to games and create another constructor that allows me to initialize the games or any object without having to give all this specific a signature or those specific variables in order to create the game properly. So with that, I getting rid of this specific error. Now I have to get all the specific values for this event, right? Now remember, we are making a loop in the result set, right? So the result set will be some kind of table, and the result set will bring every single item of that line that you are trying to reach. So in that case, I'm going to set my, let's say, ID game. Now, since we have the result set, the result set will bring everything, right? Because I'm telling to bring all the columns. Okay. Now I'm going to set the ID game to result set or get integer, get integer, and the name of the column that we'll be looking for, it will be game ID. Let's go to make sure it's game ID, otherwise we will have errors. It's ID game, you see? It's ID game. ID game. Now game.set name result set dot get a string, and the string will be in this case I believe is name, right? And finally we have to set the category, and will be the result set dot get the string category. All right, now it's almost done here. Now after we're getting this user, because the user game, after getting this game set up properly, we can actually add it to our array list over here. Okay, so let's go to results dot add, and what I'm going to add is the game. Okay, it will keep doing that until I don't have any more results. So after the while, I'm missing something actually here. I believe I have to, no, that's fine. Now in here, let's see what else we can do here. So after this specific loop finish, I will have an array list of game. So what I'm going to do is converting this array list to an array so my games can be returned. So let's see. But first, before doing that, I'm going to close this guy, right? I'm going to close this result set because I'm not going to need it anymore. Okay, and well, actually the close should be in lowercase, and I'm going to return the array now. But the issue is, okay, yeah. So I'm going to return the array, the results. So I'm going to tell the results, which is an array list, to array, right? And I'm going to call the games, right? So let's see what error we have. Oh, actually I haven't initialized games. That's why it's giving me an error. So games will be equal to games, and the number will be the results dot length, probably, or size. Yeah, size. All right. Now you see I got rid of the error, but I'm still having an error because even though I haven't returned it yet. But before returning this, if that if statement is null, that means I have to tell what to do if this guy is null. That means I don't have any single data. So what I'm going to return, whoops, I don't know what is happening with me today. I'm going to arrange my so I can actually erase this guy. Oh no, not yet. And in this else, I will put the games equal to new games and sending or initializing an array that is empty. So I won't be doing any harm to send in an array that is empty, and my logic will work perfectly. The only thing that it won't show any result, right? So now I can return games, and now my logic is finished. Okay, so basically let's go to put into a test. So let's go back to form. So after I do this, after I insert the game, I would like to display all info in my database. Okay, so we haven't called this guy a name. If you go to the design section, in this JText area is still JText area 1. So I'm going to call this guy I don't know, probably results. Okay, go back to source, and in here the first thing I have to do is results dot set text to anything, because I want to wipe everything out, right? So remember, we are going to get an array. So I'm going to set up an array called games equal to new games, but I don't know how many games I'm gonna get, right? So instead of initializing the variable, what I'm going to do is just a little trick, and I'm going to make it equal to get all games, because it's returning what? An array of games, right? So automatically will be initialized. So will be the dbcon. Oh, one thing that I'm missing, I'm sorry, go back to the dbcon. Remember always to close or disconnect the connection. So before returning games, just disconnect. Always remember that, guys. It is important, believe me. And yeah, I believe if you disconnect, yeah, I'm going to disconnect and include my get all game statement dot close. Okay, I believe that's pretty much it. Yep, I almost forgot that. Now in games is equal to, let's go back to dbcon. I don't remember what the method is get all games. I'm going to copy this just to avoid typos, errors. Now, since you see it get all games is not static, I cannot call it directly, right? So I have to use sqlcon. Okay? But look at this. This is gonna throw an error because in here games array, oh yeah, sorry. So this will throw you an error. How do I know that? Because in insert game we are what? Going back to dbcon, we are disconnecting the connection. So when I try to do this, it will show me an error, and we can try to do it just for the sake of learning. So let's go to see. I'm going to run this. So I'm going to put a Street Fighter, and that will be arcade fighting. Arcade fighting. Oh my gosh. Okay. Now submit, and it looks like it worked actually. So let's continue because I would like to test it. It's supposed to bring an error because the connection is closed. Let me check if it worked here. It should. Yeah, that is perfect. Okay, cool. Now let's go to, since we have the game, so for games item in games, I'm going to display something. So the results dot append, probably, yeah, append. What I'm going to append is the string dot format. I will call it like game, and string, and category, okay, and I'm going to give all the variables that I need. That will be item dot name and item dot not name, sorry, because this probably, why is giving me the name? It's supposed to be private. That's weird. I don't know, it will throw me an error, but I'm going to get name. And item dot get category, right? Yeah. String format. What else is missing? I think I'm missing one of those guys. Let me check. Yeah, no. And I'm missing. Okay. Let me check what the error is. I'm getting a string. Oh. Okay, now we're working. Let's see if it works. So now we're going to input, let's say, I don't know, Far Cry, tier person shooter. Yeah, it worked. That's strange. Well, anyway, so it seems like it's working because I have to figure why, because it's supposed to be closed. Probably the closing is not working. And let me check. That is why. I'm not calling the disconnect here. That was so weird. Now, since I'm disconnecting, let's see if it works. So I'm going to call it again, and I'm going to put another game. Let's think. I don't know, Left 4 Dead, and Left 4 Dead 2, and this is a tier person shooter. Submit. Now I'm getting a session. You see, no operation allowed after the statement is closed. So in order to avoid that, that's the specific error I was looking for. And that error, it is because here, after I'm inserting the game in dbcon, I'm closing the connection, right? As you remember, for security reasons, right? Now, in order to avoid that, what we have to do is, whenever we are working with this SQL con again, we have to set up a new dbcon. So basically what it's doing is creating a new connection. All right? Now with this specific line, a new connection. Now I know I'm having an error here because I don't want to have everything like together. So with that specific line now, I think our application should work without any problem. So Brawlhalla 2D Fighter. Submit. Now we're talking. You see, we have the hero of the storm, category MOBA, Street Fighter, category arcade, Far Cry, category TPS, Left 4 Dead 2, category TPS, and so on and so forth. So that's pretty much what the assignment is, guys. So try to practice by yourself and learn all the steps that we did today. So the only step that I'm not going to do is actually going to your folder and create a zip file in order to submit the assignment, okay? But it should be working if you follow all the steps as we practice in this video, okay? So, well, thank you very much, guys, for your attention, and that's pretty much it. Take care. Bye-bye.